we're going to try to find, we're going to do a sample size example where we got to solve for n. Now, we have these formulas. I'm going to spare you having to solve this for n, okay? But we've got these two formulas. If the company is in the business of selling wholesale popcorn to grocery store, the company buys directly from farmers. A buyer of the company is examining a large amount of corn from a certain farmer. Before the purchase is made, the buyer wants to estimate P, the probability that a kernel will pop. Suppose a random sample of n kernels and taken R these pop, the buyer wants to be 95% sure the point estimate for P in the error either way is less than 0.01. So we're given a margin of error. We have to have the sample size necessary to meet that margin of error. Now, if no preliminary estimate is made, so if no estimate is made, then we have to assume this is like the worst case scenario. We have to assume the probability is 0.5. What's 0.5 times 0.5? 0.25, which is 1/4. So if you want a dumbed down thing here, if no preliminary estimate's made, you're going to use this formula right here. Okay, and so why is it 1/4? Because you would plug in 0.5 for P. 0.5 times 0.5 is 1/4. So you don't need to know that. You just really need to know the formula. That's how the formula is derived. Okay, so n equals 1/4. Now, Z of C, it's 95% sure. So we're going to use the Z procedure. So we can go back to the front page and see what's the Z tied to 95%. 1.96. Good. Divided by E. E is the margin of error you want to stay within. Then we square that. This formula is derived from the original, the confidence interval formula. Okay, so I just do 1/4 times 1.96 divided by 0.01 squared. It'd be 9,604. If there is a decimal, you always round up. Okay, there's a decimal, you always round up, but you could enter all that at once. Okay. A preliminary study showed that P was approximately 0.86. So if you have a preliminary estimate, then you're going to use this first one. So you have a preliminary estimate, it's 0.86. That means P is going to be 0.86. So your N will be 0.86 times 1 minus 0.86 times the critical value, which is 1.96 because it's 95%, divided by E, which is 0.01 squared. Okay? Put squiggly equals there. I don't know if I'm going to need it. You can enter this all at once. 1 minus 0.86 times 1.96 divided by 0.01 squared. 4,625.29. So you want to round that up. Always round up here. So that would be a sample, okay? All right. Now, if you're bored and don't feel like you don't need to write this down, but if you want to know how you derive that formula real quick, I go back to this place here. Okay, error is equal to Z of C. So don't worry about writing this down. If you want to Z of C times the square root of P times 1 minus P over N. So you solve it for N. So I divide by Z of C. So E divided by Z of C equals P times 1 minus P over N, the square root. Now I square both sides. This is probably more information than you want to know. E divided by Z of C squared, that's divided by N. Then what I could do is I could multiply both sides by, N, but N up there. And then I could divide both sides by this, and dividing both sides by this is just going to flip it. Times Z of C divided by E. So you don't need to know that. That's how you derive the formula. You just need to know the formulas. Okay.